All right, J Bala. All right, so I do a video just made today and this morning, and I thought the song went so well with the theme. It was recorded at I believe it was an Asheville Music Savas, and it's Kathy Riley and company singing a song written by Carl Nelson, and put it together with beautiful um, little slideshow of Baba's pictures that I took, and also or I took of India Myrtle Beach. Also Baba pictures I took screenshots of and some beautiful pictures of nature around this area. So here we go.
I love watching everybody eating. It looks like Tony's snacking, Josh is snacking. It's making me wish I had a snack while.
I was trying to conceal it. It's a low carb, delicious vanilla ice cream.
All right, stand by. Um, just got this new computer, so just got make.
And stand back and stand by.
Okay. Actually, Margie, do you want to read your thing first?
Yeah, sure.
So I
I
can configure
see,
this.
yeah, let me screen
Thank
share my.
you. Okay. Yes. Here. Let me. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna make somebody read this email. It's a pretty short one, but does anybody feel like they would like to read it?
I do. I want to
Read
read. Okay. So, Margaret Connor, 1998.
that.
Okay. Jay Barber, thank you so much for welcoming Peter and I with so much love last Thursday. We are beyond excited to be hosting a late night chat. Peter and I were discussing all the transformational changes that seem to be taking place in the world and each one of our lives. It feels as if Barber is truly stirring the pot. So much of our life with Barber is navigating the world while remaining inward and connected to him. We thought it would be lovely and helpful to discuss all the ways Barber shows us he is with us throughout our struggles and triumphs. Everyone has their own unique way of connecting with the beloved within. We would love to hear your experience and hopefully encourage one another to find that his voice inside of us. Do you have a way of connecting with Barber when things get tough? Do you have a trick for remembering to thank him when he brings us changes of joy? How do you hold to him when it feels as if he has abandoned you? Do you have a story or experience of a time when Barber showed up in your desperation? We can't wait to see how this conversation goes and hear all about your experiences with our constant companion. In his love, Margie and Peter. P.S. I leave all my worldly possessions to Josh.
Josh, if you want to ever read the email again, you better behave. Peter, how are we coming on that video?
Here, let me try it now. Here. Okay, I think this should work. I think I did it right. If not, I know another way to share from my phone.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. Perfect.
This weekend, the feeling of gratitude and good fortune has been overwhelming me, being able to be here with all of you, being so luckily connected to Meher Baba this lifetime. We'd love to start with an old favorite, and I know you love this one too, by Carl Nelson. So many changes, my mind rearranges, but I'm still with you. Whatever happens will happen, but I know I'll never be blue. Oh my Baba, 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 Baba,
This feeling is so new, I just don't know quite what to do. I try and I try, but I'll just have to leave it to you. Oh my ba 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 ba
And that smile on your face, no one can replace. And you give it to your lovers with your grace, with your grace. Oh my ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Meher Baba. And that sparkle in your eyes shines brighter than the skies. And you've shown us the path in our lives, in our lives. Oh my Baba, 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 so many changes, my life rearranges, but I'm still with you. Whatever happens will happen, but I know I'll never be blue. Oh my ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Meher Baba.
All right.
Yay.
Hey, Baba.
Hey, Baba. Thank you, Peter. That was awesome. You're gonna be the one making all of Baba's iMovies when he when he comes back. There's gonna be a whole slew of Baba iMovies to play out. So on the topic of, remembering Baba or navigating difficult times with Baba or joyous times with Baba, does anybody feel like they want to venture out? Oh boy, am I gonna have to call on somebody? Oh, let's see. Oh, Josh, you've got some big eyes over there. You look like you're ready to talk.
Always ready to talk, you know me, but I can't guarantee any of the quality of what's going to come out. Yeah, because this is something that I do. For some people, though, I definitely think they probably wouldn't want to do it for themselves. Like in my instance, I personally do this where basically I get angry at Baba, and I think of that as another way of almost like prayer. I remember this time when I had bad food poisoning, and it was coming out of me from both ends, and I was just and I was just like and it was just the anger at Baba was to maintain that connection, because sometimes if I feel like I'd rather like ideally be sort of very like, oh, thank you, Baba, and then second after that is being angry at Baba, but then third and last is not remembering Baba at all. So that's my personal take. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's beautiful. And I think that sometimes because we're human, we get this shame kind of mixed up in things where it's like, oh, if I'm not thinking about Baba in this love and adoration, but it hurts him more for us to try to keep him out of that than if we just make him a part of it. Baba's everything. So yeah, very insightful over there, Josh. You better come to the States and maybe share some of your wisdom. Does anybody else have anything about, how they or maybe like a difficult time in their life when they held on to Baba, and it was kind of like out of some desperation that Baba came through. No one in particular? Okay. Well, Peter, you kind of came up with this topic. So was there a reason that this topic came to mind?
Not a particular reason. I mean, just at different times of my life, I feel Baba like through changes, like Baba definitely has been a presence. Um, for example, I'll use going to India as an example. I went at three completely different times in my life. I went on my first time when I was 7 years old. I met Mara at that time, 1988. And of course, I was going through changes, getting older and whatnot. And I think they say in one of the like the Bible books, like the seven's like the youngest age that they suggest Westerners going to India. Um, and then years later, I went there in 2000. It was a graduation present from high school for my parents and went with my dad that trip. And that was like a big phase of my life. I was graduating high school, moving on like to a new like phase with like work/slash college experience, whatnot, and almost like being an adult. I was around like 18ish at that time. And then about 10 years later after that, coincidentally enough, in 2010, I went to India again. And that trip, I was going through a huge change. I was I was working at a local attraction in Myrtle Beach, that's now out of business, a big IMAX 3D theater. And when I went to India at that time, I was with the company for about like 3, 4 years at that time. And I just felt inwardly that the company was on its way down. Like I had a really, really good boss who I was close with, and the corporation, the company I worked for, they let her go, which a lot of our staff was sad about. They replaced her with a person that was not nice, and the corporate. We could tell how corporate was to us then. Once the new person came in, anyway, I had saved up my money. Also had a lot of PTO time, and there was also a new company opening up like the next year in Myrtle Beach. So I sort of had a feeling that I wanted to work for them. But I was like, you know what? In January 2010, I'm going. I worked it out. I went with two friends to India, one from Myrtle Beach and then another one from Connecticut, who we met up with in New York. We all flew to India together. And when I was in India, I just felt like I was at a crossroads, yet going through a change in my like work and life experience. And sure enough, like a couple months later that spring, I left that job that I was with and got a transitional job, and then went to a company that I was with for 10 years before I got the job in the center. But it was definitely a transition in my life then. I would also say through COVID, in general, COVID was a huge transition, just with um, being with the company, the last company I was with over 10 years, leaving that company, which wasn't an easy decision. I still have a lot of friends and some good role models there, that I like, the love of family atmosphere. And of course, I got the job in the center, and it was an interesting change. Just, of course, working in the center, which I love the environment. But the first day I got the job in the center, they completely shut down, literally. And I thought, like, I almost thought it was like a prank from Baba in a way. Like, I'm like, really? Like, I wanted to come here for the people, for the high energy of it, for the give and take between like with Baba's love for us and guests. And they were, of course, closed for a while, of course, due to being real cautious with germs and whatnot and COVID. And it was just like an inward experience. Like I went way more inwardly. We all worked alone at that time, and it wasn't an easy time, but I could tell Baba was definitely a presence in my life, and he got me through those changes. Like, and then of course once they reopened, it was so nice, and I could feel the energy, and it's been amazing. But Baba's definitely been through me, and I of course try to remember Baba through, I would say, through going within to find Baba, through music, through looking at Baba pictures. I love the book that it's all pictures. I forget what it's called, but like Hermes made it. It was like the second book, I made. It's awesome. I think it's called like In God's Hand or something like that. But I love that. And that's how I deal with Baba or connecting with other Baba people, like Zoom things. I remember Baba as well. So I'll say
Yeah.
that's what's on my mind right now.
Yeah. Oh, no, I think, I mean, it shows, I think that it's almost like when you hold on to Baba throughout the ups and the downs, it paints everything in a much nicer color. Even, I mean, Baba definitely stirs the pot. He doesn't make it easy by any means, and just for example, you starting at the center and then it's shutting down the next day. It's like he's making you be there for him. But when you hold on to him, it's like yeah, it lightens the mood of the really heavy things. Yeah. Diane and Terry, which one? Is it one or both?
It could be
It
both.
could be both. So start with Diane. By the way, you with the black background and the light on you, it's just stunning.
Like
Thank you.
you're an angel.
Oh,
Which we know you are.
Yeah.
So there you have it.
oh, you guys are gonna make me cry. Thank you.
So the cliff notes of my journey with Baba is that we went to India in 2012 because Terry um, was became a Baba lover and she felt like she had a journey there. And I knew that I had to at least bear witness to her spiritual journey, otherwise we could grow apart. And we did half vacation to appease me, and then the other half was at the center, at the Pilgrim Center. And on the second day, people started telling me that they saw me down at the Samadhi. And for those of you who know the Samadhi, you know that there's probably 100 people standing
Well, it
in
was the
line.
day after his birthday too.
Right, so it
So
was
there were a
crowded.
ton of people there.
So I didn't know what that meant. I saw you at the Samadhi. I was standing in line like everyone else. And finally, when the third person said it, I said, "What does that mean? You saw me at the Samadhi." And they said, "You're just glowing." And I looked in the mirror and I was indeed glowing. And so I'm one of those stories where Baba got me. And I was an agnostic at best. I was very into being addicted to listening to like political shows, very progressive lefty. And Terry was always the seeker, and I followed with her. But nothing ever resonated until then. And I was even a slow burn for the next many, many years. Terry was a big reader, but I'm not. And I needed to feel things. So I would always get us to go to the LA Center and go to Sahavas and listen to people, but none of the heady stuff. I did not resonate with God Speaks or any of the real heady stuff. So when COVID hit and we were on our way to Australia, we were going to the Women's Sahavas in March of 2020. And that got aborted, of course. And it wasn't until probably September of 2020 that our friend Marta turned us on to Baba Zoom. And I became a regular every morning and every night, probably for a good 2 years. Because I needed to hear these stories. I needed to hear exactly what we're doing tonight. How do you bring Baba into your life? Because even after these many years, it's not a default for me. I have reminders on my phone at 12 and 5 to say Baba's name. Every morning I try and thank him. And as Meridar Vala says so eloquently, Baba, please take over. And at night I thank him. And throughout the day, especially when I start going, I call it radio KFUC in my head. I try and do what people have taught me, and that is turn it over to Baba. And it has been remarkable how I could have gone down the rabbit hole on so many things, so many times, that I actually am becoming the person that I always wanted to be. And I'm 67 years old, so it's a slow process. I still have a lot of hope. But I hold on to the concept of holding on to Baba's Daman is the Daman might as well be a life preserver, because that's what it is for me. And I am just so grateful for these sessions where people, I always say that the Baba groups to me is where spirituality and psychology intersect, because I find the people in these little squares challenged with how to have the best life they can, and they're turning to Baba to help them get there. And Jeff Wolverton might be the most guilty party involved in that. And I can't get enough of him, lap him up, and the stories he tells and his devotion. And for me to be talking about God, I don't even recognize myself. Jai Baba.
That's so beautiful.
I will add a little something. So I get into my car and it's still dark out and I'm on my way to the office, and Jeff and Nan are singing on my every single day. So that's how, and then I bring down my visor and there's a picture of Baba. And that's how I travel. And by the time I get to my office, Baba is so in me, that he does my work. I mean, my body gets tired, but he's doing the work and he's loving my patients and he's just with me all the time. And so I don't know, I guess you do it enough and it just becomes part of who you are, and you can't help yourself. I don't need to be reminded that often. I'm very lucky, but I do a lot of work around seeking him out in the good and the bad and everything and the struggles. And I appreciate the struggles because it allows me to really, really be happy when things are a little bit easier. And life is hard, every way you look, it's hard. So you have to really connect with Baba and hold on to him and know that it's the way it's supposed to be. He's the director. Jay Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Hey, Pava. Marky,
You
what
can,
about you? What about you? Do you have anything that you'd like to share?
oh.
Because you've been going through so many changes.
Yeah, I've had some big changes in my life recently, and Baba's definitely putting me to the test. But it's funny, I kind of relate it, like I relate a lot of the difficult experiences in my life for me, it works to live, to like imagine I'm living the new life. And so when I have that, like I've had a really rough week. And so like yesterday I was literally lying on the floor of my shower, just like in that like hysterical crying state. And I just like all of a sudden it was like Baba appeared, and I was like literally in like the fetal position on the floor of my shower. And I was like, wow, even in this moment, like I can bow down to his feet. And like this is exactly where he wants me to be. And I think it's like through going through, I don't think that I would be able to kind of traverse like what Baba's given me in this life without that, because I imagine that Baba's going through it, and it's like it almost I have this experience sometimes of feeling like I'm lucky that my body can be what experiences like the avatar's trial and tribulation. When I have something difficult going on, like Baba has to experience that. And so like I feel lucky that I can lighten the burden for him in a way, even though it's like I'm still experiencing it and I'm like, Baba, help me get through this. But it's still, Baba's took on so much suffering. And so part of like us having this suffering is sharing in his burden. And that's really what, that really wasn't the question you asked at all, but that's kind of what just came
No,
out.
no, it's true. I can relate to that. And like when like me personally, when I'm going through a rough time, that's when Baba really comes alive, and like he almost gives me signs, or like he almost shows me, yes, he is there. Like it's almost like then he turns that into like a beautiful experience that he's helped me overcome things, and he's like I could tell he's guiding me, like holding my hand, like it's true. Like he doesn't give us, he only gives us as much as we can handle, I think.
Yeah, and I think it goes much more quickly. I think the intensity is
Yes.
there, and I want to get to Tony because I see his
Yes.
beautiful smile, but I
Yes.
think the intensity that comes is so much greater. But it's like, I had that experience last night, and then I woke up this morning, and it was, sometimes I wake up and I feel like I'm saying Baba's name without even doing it. Or I have dreams sometimes where I remember Baba in my dream, and it's like, then it's gone. It's just because he just, like, when you live life experiencing it, kind of like you said, Diane, just turning it over to Baba, it's like you experience it fully and it's so intense, but you're not attached to it because it's just what Baba's giving you in that moment and what Baba needs to experience through you. But anyway, on to Tony.
The problem is you said something that inspired me to share what I'm going to share now. Something about, I don't remember the exact words, but like,
that's not a problem.
No, the problem is that so many interesting things have come up since then. And like how much, what you said was something, does anyone have anything where it was like really cataclysmic or horrible and difficult? And, and I thought about this situation, but I want to say at least one thought that came on everything else that came up since then is about Baba never gives you more than you can handle. And someone once said, but I think actually he does give you more than you can handle. Well, he said God, God never gives you more than you can handle. He does give you more than you can handle. So you have to surrender. And I have found, that was you? That was my wife. Somebody, that was me. So yeah, and I think it's true. In my experience, it's been true. All right. So for the big dramatic thing, this is actually from my book, Playing with Fire, which is about, and I've never shared this part publicly. It's recorded because this is close to the climax of the book. And if you're going to read, it won't spoil it, but I, like people to get it's during the build to the climax. On January 31st, 1969, I had an experience at the moment Baba dropped his body. I was 16. I didn't know about Baba. I was a Catholic kid. And in this dream, not a dream, kind of a vision, there was a woman. There was so much love between us in this experience, but she was drawn into a room. There was a separation. She was pulled away from me. And neither of us wanted it, but that's what happened. And in the experience, I was about to explode, and a beautiful voice said a word that shattered the experience, like dissolved it, but also like woke my inner being. And the word was 303. I had no idea what it meant, but I set about that I was going to find this woman. She had to be somewhere, and she might be looking for me. Maybe she had the same experience. And I thought maybe when I found her, she would know what 303 was. But either way, I set out. And for a year, I pursued this pretty intensely. I was almost a hermit prior to this. And suddenly I had friends in every community because she could have been in any of those communities. And towards a little bit past a year, I saw Baba. I was introduced to Baba, so to speak. And I recognized him immediately. And I said, well, okay, so he gave me this experience to generate love in me, because you can't come to Baba except through love. But 10 years later, the woman showed up. The situation that was metaphorical in the vision became quite literal. And it came to a difficult moment. And I'm going to read just a few pages from that point. Years after he had stopped looking, Kalyano had unwittingly found her. And anyway, and with this realization, tears begin to flow in torrents with sobs that rack his body. This man who'd never wept, even when his father died when he was 9, even when his first love married another, but now he weeps for 2 weeks straight. It's more than he can grasp, contain, absorb. And when he is able, he leaves the house and walks through the cold winter's night, railing aloud at this cruel God who had known all along and misled him. You did this to me. You gave the experience, set me on this quest, led me to believe it was a journey of love for love, and that somehow it would come to pass, a glorious reunion. But no, you did not show me what had been, but what was yet to be. How cruel, how unbelievably cruel. Then addressing Mayor Baba, whom he still knows to be God, God in human form and beyond all form, the one God and all the gods, Kalyano flings his bitterest taunt at him, as if he is seated in the night sky by a crystal blue pool on some modern Mount Olympus. You are all powerful, and you play with us for your sport. And he falls silent. A moment later, God whispers a word in his ear, and he listens. Mayor Baba had warned his lovers so many years earlier of the forthcoming period of his humiliation, an essential and painfully difficult part of his divine advent, yet as necessary as the crucifixion of Jesus and the subsequent scattering of his disciples. Baba had repeatedly reminded his lovers to hold fast to my daman, the hem of the master's seamless garment, representing complete surrender, with the trust of a child holding fast to its mother's skirt in a busy marketplace. And he had warned that during the time of his humiliation, as the dark cloud was bursting, his lovers in a moment might lose hold of it. Quote, if it is meant to happen, it will, but it is for me to warn and for you to remain alert. Now, in the momentary silence hanging in the air, as Kalyano's sharpest taunt flies to its mark, he hears these silent words within his heart. Quote, which Baba said, remember, once you let go of my daman, it will be very difficult for you to grab hold again. He doesn't realize this is the voice of God speaking, but he honors it nonetheless. Have I let go of his daman? And shifts his focus to that crucial question, and recalls how those words had always been so reassuring to him, since Baba said difficult, not impossible. And in an instant, Kalyano resolves to place all his torment and confusion below the supreme purpose of holding fast to Baba's daman with both hands, remembering Baba's words, quote, so that if one hand should lose its grip, the other will serve you in good stead. It does. And with this decision, another thought comes. What of 303? The saving, compassion-filled word of grace which had come to his rescue. A mystery still. What is 303? And he garners his efforts to reach the goal of solving that mystery now, remembering his feeling that when he found this woman, she might know its meaning, or at least hold the key. He must ask her. But how?
Wow.
Hey, Baba.
You're a beautiful writer, Tony.
Thank you. Baba gives me good stories. Drawn from my skin, but you know.
Beautiful.
Wow.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank
All
you.
right. Meher Davarla, let's go to you.
Yeah, Jai Baba.
Jay Baba.
I'll tell you, when I came into Baba's fold, this was many years back, and I went the first time to Mehrabad. I felt there is something someone is holding my hands and saying, come close to me. And I never knew what's happening. I went there, and when I went into near Baba's Samadhi, I felt, yes, this is the real place for me. Because I had a lot of trouble in my life. And especially just now, I have more trouble. But Baba is they say, opening things up for me and helping me a lot. I feel he's the right person to be in his hands. He knows us like that. I really care for Baba. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba. Thank you, Mayor. Looks like we have Gail up next.
Okay. One of the things that's changed for me in the last few years, I went to Mirabad for 5 months, between September of 2016 to early February 2017. So I got to stay through Amartithi. And while I was there, Ted Judson and I would often be the only two Westerners, which was, from what I understood, different. You know, there had always been quite a few Westerners there. And so Ted said, I need you to sing a song every morning. And I'm like, I haven't sung a song since I was in choir as a kid, or maybe in chorus in junior high school. But Ted kind of got me going. And thanks to Nan Wicker's wonderful books, I would pick out a song, and I was so inexperienced. I mean, I had always sung as an alto, but I found out that I was a soprano, soprano. And so I couldn't even figure out what songs to sing. I sang, but I figured a few out. Ustad Dhanyavad was in my register, and Dolly Dastur would ask me to sing hymns. And so I figured some out, like In the Garden. So she would ask me to sing certain things like I'll Fly Away. And the experience, I had been in Baba singers, I don't know, for maybe 10 years or something. So I sang with Baba singers, but always with others. And so never by myself. And then that was what it was. It just sort of stayed in Mirabad, and I joined Baba Zoom pretty early on because I'm friends with Ruthie, and I was in another group that didn't have anything to do with Baba, and she was talking about Baba Zoom. And so I joined Baba Zoom, and for the first year, I didn't sing anything. I read poems and all kinds of things and told stories, but no singing. And then I guess somehow I got the urge. And what I realized is it makes me so much closer to Baba. And it gives me time during the day to be practicing something, to be singing something. Yesterday, you know, I was practicing something. I'll just do something real quick. My friend Alicia, and she doesn't, wrote this. When life gets me down, I go to the ocean of love, who lives within my heart. He says, do your best, don't worry, be happy. You know I will help you, so just trust in me. Leave it in his hands, leave it in his hands, leave it in his hands, leave it in Baba's hands. And some of you may know, don't say her last name, Alicia, she likes to be private about this. So she said, if I ever sang the song, to not let on who really wrote it. And so I respect that. But so I guess my answer to the question is singing. I'll find myself singing in the car. If I join a Baba Zoom, like an arti, I will sing, He's Got the Whole World in His Hands, and I'll take the list of people that I see. And so I'll say Margie and Ralph and Diane and Terry and all that. So I recommend singing to get closer to Baba.
That's so beautiful. And I believe I think it was Moni. Somebody asked her if, they said, you know, isn't music the shortest path to God? And Moni said, no, it's singing. So you're onto something there, Gail.
All
Thanks for
right.
sharing.
And Marion, good evening, Marion.
Good evening. Thank you, everyone. I was puzzled as this approached as to what do I share? I don't know. So I've been with Baba since 1968. And so there's a lot. And I thought, then it occurred to me, share this one experience that is so much affected me. Everything has. I mean, I have my practice, Baba's name and my in the morning and evening and trusting all to Baba and all that. And yes, I fall off the wagon and I stumble around too. And so I'm in the midst of that right now, where I'm human divine. It's so fast that it's really got me, quite accelerated here. But what came to me is something that a few years ago, it might have been 5, I wrote it out for my memoir writing class. I had an experience after much work on my parents of this life, that because Baba has in the Discord, the psychological is spiritual too. So I had to do all that psychological work of uncovering all my traumas from my childhood in this life while doing the spiritual work. So I had an experience many years ago. I'm not going to go into that one. It's the background for this one of experiencing in another shift. It was still the world of duality, but I was in another state of consciousness where Baba has no name, was at my side, spoke to me, and I was in another dimension. And I saw the parents of my childhood standing where I was born. I'm not going to go in the whole story, and a light shining on them. And Baba had said, if they were not the way they were, you would not have left them in this life. In other words, it was things I knew and I'd worked on forever, about separating from my parents when I did in my 20s. But anyway, at that moment, I experienced and I heard, no mind chatter, it's what you hear out of the silence, was that all of my karmic connection with them was over, those two souls. I would be with them, of course, forever. We're one, but there was no more karmic connection. And I felt an unconditional love like I never felt before in my whole life. And so then I shifted out of that back into my regular state. So that happened some years ago, maybe 5, 7 years ago. So just a few years ago, I have 2 grandsons here in New York City that I helped raise 3 days a week as they were growing up from pre-K to middle school. And that's why I had my own therapy practice. So it was very rigorous, but I have all these tools I was trained in, nonviolent communication, other things. So when I raised them, it was a great deal of wisdom and love that I brought into that. And because sometimes they, as brothers, 3.5 years apart, they were like Cain and Abel, they loved each other, and yet they sometimes seemed like they wanted to kill each other. So, but I had all these tools to be with them and loving them. So then they grew up and grew away. And people would say to me, oh, well, high school kids and college kids, they have their own life. And I used to get so furious, but I didn't dump on anyone, because I thought, I know I'm trained in childhood development. I'm trained in teenage development, but come on. So I'd give it all to Baba about feeling that I wasn't getting back what I had given, even though I knew I needed to let go of that. And so I would struggle with it. I'd work on it maybe in therapy. I would give Baba everything, my complaints, my pain, everything. So one day, I wasn't thinking about this, but I just happened to lay across my bed one day, not thinking about this subject. And you know how when the silence descends, out of the silence comes the voice of God. Well, that silence descended over me where I had no mind chatter. And I heard, when I hear Baba's voice, it is always calm, loving, steady, like that. So divine. So I was just laying there. The silence came over me. And what I heard were these words: you owed them. Now, I was still in the silence, so I got it. I didn't have any mind chatter in that place. You owed them. Then when I came out of that place, then came in my thoughts. Oh my gosh, I owe them karmically. They owe me nothing. These 2 beings owe me nothing. So it's not that all of my complaints haven't ended with Baba about being a grandmother. But what happened is I always give it to Baba. And what's happened is that I'm giving Baba the question, what kind of relationship can we have now? And then I got intuitively, Baba, everyone, my closest karmic connections are all being I'm being led through all of them for total detachment so that I am totally relying wholly and solely on Baba. And so all these close ones, I'm being taken through that territory. So I just want to share that one, where out of that day, least expecting it, came the voice of you owed them. So I see that. Thank you.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I think it really shows like Baba's compassion in those moments, you know.
Yeah.
And I I recently had this experience where, well, two things, but they're kind of relating to that is, yeah, I had this experience with Baba where I was like thinking, is this from past lives? Why am I dealing with this? And Baba kind of showed me, it was like he flashed to me all these past lives and then like zoomed in to the current life. And the words that I felt Baba kind of saying to me inwardly are, I've created a perfect playground in this life for you to heal from everything your soul has ever been through. You know, so I think, you know, we get kind of fixated on, oh, what did this life do? Or, you know, what am I holding on to? Why is my karma this? And it was just this perfect phrase that, I mean, I think you kind of saw that. It's like, if you just live completely in this life right now that Baba's given you, that your mind is experiencing, it's a perfect playground for all of the healing and connection that you need with him. And so that's such a beautiful story, because it really is like, you know, your parents are just Mara and Baba now that that you can have all this compassion and love for.
Well, I just want to say I did the work for decades in my training that I've had to be a counselor in this area, where we made lists of our parents, where we knew our parents were out picturing of aspects of us, where we listed their positive and negative, aggressive, and I did work on it. It wasn't a momentary thing. It was my parents. I didn't. So when Baba took me from in outer space, looking at them as two souls, it wasn't to teach me something in the moment. It was to do the final resolution of detachment. I did the work. It was a lot of work. So.
Yeah, no, but it's like you played in the playground to get that thing that you needed. It feels like work, you know, but it's a perfect playground that he creates. That's such a beautiful story. I wanted to share this because something you said kind of sparked this memory in me, but I was kind of, one day I was playing with this idea of the provisional ego, and I was, you know, every time I kind of was in a mood, and this was like helpful because I was like, oh, well, Baba's in a mood, Baba's angry. And so I was, you know, just kind of going about this. Everything was just colored with like a little bit of a moody annoyance. And then I was chopping onions, and I remember my eyes started watering, and I said, Baba, your stupid eyes are watering, because I was just in like such a state. And the shock and pain that my heart felt saying that to Baba, it was like, oh my God, it felt like a stab in the heart. Like I can still feel it so like just straight through my heart of, I just said that to Baba. And then it was like this whole understanding of, you know, I'm so mean to myself all the time. Like, oh, why can't you get this right? Or why can't you do this? Or why can't you learn this lesson? Or what, you know, why are you so moody? And it was like Baba had to take me into this kind of provisional ego practice state to realize that even when I say, Baba, your stupid eyes are watering, I'm saying that to Baba, and I'm being so mean to Baba in that moment. And it really colored my whole relationship with Baba moving forward. So I think that, you know, remembering Baba in daily life is like remembering, kind of like remembering yourself in compassion, because we are Baba, and having that patience for ourselves in everyday life. You know, even if we are annoyed, it's Baba being annoyed, and he's allowed to be annoyed. You know, instead of, I always think about kind of, Jeff tells a story about Mara being afraid of heights, and how Jeff was kind of thinking, oh, well, you know, like she didn't want to fix that, or she didn't want to get over that. And it's like, you know, that's Baba being afraid of heights. Baba didn't feel the need to change that, you know, or, I mean, Baba was like fiery and had all these moods. And so us trying to control this illusion is just this idea. Of course, like when Baba presents us work that we have to do, and the letting go and the giving it over to Baba, we have to do that. But really, there's nothing to give over to Baba. But I think it's like this giant mind explosion that you have trouble sort of going around and around, because there's really nothing to ever give him. You know, it's us thinking that we have something to give, Like even all of our trials and tribulations, we don't own those. Those are Baba going through those. And so when we can remember that it's Baba experiencing all of this, it makes it a lot easier, because it's kind of like, oh, I'm getting really worked up about something that's kind of somebody else's problem, you know? But that's just my 2 cents on it. Um, but oh, we've got a hand. Okay. Tony.
Yeah, just on that. Mara, that's so important to me. And I reaffirm it, that if I'm suffering, Baba's suffering. If I'm in pain, Baba's in more pain because he's feeling it in its exquisite reality. And if I'm happy, Baba is happy. And I suddenly remembered something that Mara once said outside, and just in front of her the porch in that area, that Baba gave up so much for his love for us. She was saying he loved to sing, and he gave up his singing. He loved to speak. He really just loved to talk, and he gave that up. And the only thing he asks of us to please him is to be happy in his love. And it's like, oh yeah, but over the years, it is now, this year in particular, has come home to me. Yeah, I can ask, certainly I can ask, God bless me that I can be happy in your love. But I can also make the decision. And I do, with the consciousness that in deciding to be happy right now, I'm actually making Baba happy. It's it's my mind is just, whoa. And it's not because I want to be happy. We do so many things because, like Baba said, everything we do is because we want happiness. But this is not because I want it. It's because Baba will be happy. And fringe benefit, I get to be happy to get there. So that's all I wanted to add. Because you're definitely in the same space, kind of, about Baba experiences it all. Yeah. Jai Baba.
There's nothing that's, above or beyond him. Like we want to kind of keep Baba over here, and we'll only, we'll turn to Baba when we're in the summer and we're in the happy. But it's like, we're so naive to think that when we're experiencing what, the dark night of the soul, or whatever you want to call it, that Baba's experiencing that. So why don't we just make it a lot easier on ourselves? And I think that's something that we kind of, this is just my take on it, that we kind of get it wrong, where it's like, oh, well, we're supposed to be like smiling, that kind of fake happy all the time. It's more just like content in whatever Baba needs to get out of us. Because like I said before, I found that when I can approach something from that state, whether it's like anger or sadness or, pain or whatever it is, or grief, you still experience it, but it's this underlying color of joy. Like your body is like, I'm a deep feeler, I can tell you that. When I experience emotion, it's like really intense emotion, but I'm sometimes able to keep myself inwardly totally content and calm while I'm doing the whole crying and the letting it go, and then it's gone, because you're just letting Baba experience it through your physical body.
I've experienced a few times with that, where you're going through something really intense, but knowing that Baba is experiencing this, and it's beyond empathy. When someone expresses empathy when you're going through something, it helps. And actually you feel a bit better. But this is beyond empathy. He is literally experiencing the whole thing with you. And I have felt so touched at those moments by that love, that kind of love, that I find it easier to make the choice to be happy.
And when we were in India, I forget how we were talking about, but Jeff shared this, that suffering is he, happiness is from him. And so we want to get to this place of happiness all the time, where we're all like happy-go-lucky and smiles, but it's really, if we want to be divinely connected to him, my favorite quote of like my entire life is, at some point you have to look upon the hideous face of God and not turn away. And the earlier you can figure that out, I think it's actually, your life is a lot easier, because instead of trying to run away from the, all that difficulty, it's like, oh, I'm lucky. Like, I get to experience what Baba's experiencing, which is really what all of us have inside of us, which is we are the divine reality. There's no separation.
Yep.
Does anybody else have anything that kind of comes to mind about that? Or maybe even on a lighter side of that? That was pretty intense. What you got, Josh?
Well, I was just wondering what were we talking about again? I love this conversation, but I feel like I've completely forgotten what I'm meant to be.
Yeah, I think we kind of pivoted a little bit from what the original topic was, like navigating daily life with Baba, kind of like going through the difficult times with him, and how sometimes we feel like Baba abandons us. At least, I can say that. And how we hold back onto him. And then also when we're like experiencing all this like bliss and happiness, how we thank him and remember him for those kinds of things, and kind of come back to that space.
Yeah, I feel like I have an internal approach with him, it's great to read all the books and everything, but again, ultimately it's the Baba in my heart that I have to connect with, and that I sort of try and keep this relationship with. I've got to navigate with. Yeah, it's interesting. It's I definitely think finding ways to remember him just helps me to keep that sort of that presence alive, that feeling alive. Yeah. I do lots of things, like when I'm counting, instead of counting 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, I go 1 Meher Baba, 2 Meher Baba, 3 Meher Baba. Yeah, and I just try and slip in different reminders. I love Diane's idea about having the phone. I think that's such a good way to do that. It's like a modern call to prayer, except we just got it on our little phone in our pocket. In the sky, I'm making a big, beautiful call. Yeah. So yeah, I just try and remember him as much as I have, and then just try and keep on cultivating that internal connection, or what I feel to be my internal connection. I just try and and I'd be interested to hear, how other people cultivate that too. How other people can navigate with.
So does anybody have little? I feel like I know Baba. It's like, we're not supposed to create a religion around it, but there is a certain amount of the fact that we're human and we need kind of rituals of some sort. I know, like, they help me, little things that I've created from the heart. And do any of you guys have little rituals created from the heart that are just like daily parts of your life that are like, oh, there's Baba, like, there he is. But looks like we got Rich.
Oh, Rich, you're on mute.
Okay, I had to unmute again. Right? Am I there?
Yeah, you're good now.
Here.
Okay. I came in kind of late. I'd been busy earlier, but suddenly I saw my checkbook over here by the computer, and I thought, oh, I have to pay a bill. And then instantly it dawned on me, oh my God, I was supposed to be on at 8, right? 8 here, my time. Yeah, 10 years. And so then I kind of got on. But things like that happen to me. I think where I'm going with this is, as I've gotten older, especially in the last 5 years, I think it would be, I seem to be digging deeper into the sanskars that I don't want to face. I don't like, or make me very unhappy. I know that I've sinned, period. And Dr. Kinmore used to say, sin is a Greek word and it means you have missed the mark. Yeah, there you go, Tony. And so the mark is Baba, of course, the avatar. And we're so fortunate we have the avatar, because all we have to do is remember him and he'll set us on a course. He'll set us back into focus like a lens taking a picture. But so I've been feeling sort of these veils of me thinking I know something, or having an agenda, an ego, an entity, what I got to do, this and that. And part of it is projecting in the future when I'm going to die. So I better get wrapped up a little bit, But so I've had this agenda right now of fixing all things in my house and this and that. but I'm getting older. I used to have so much energy. So now it's like one or two things at a time per day. And then I'm like, oh man. So point of that is that what's been happening, it seems to me, is that I have an agenda, but really to get it done, I believe that it's Baba is doing it. It's hard to explain it, but it feels like don't get anxiety, don't have to dive into your anxiety or worry or be frustrated, but that, oh, look at that. I suddenly got that one done. I wonder how. And then that one was done. That one was done. And pretty soon, and I bet Jeff's whole life is like this, but pretty soon it's like I'm going, oh, I'm not running the show here. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting because something that we're supposed to remember Baba, but I kind of find that if you kind of think that it's up to Baba to remember Baba, that it doesn't create so much of that critical, like, oh my gosh, why can't I remember Baba? What's wrong with me? Why can't I hold to his Dhamma? And so I find that like remembering Baba just becomes a background state when you're like that, because then it's just Baba remembering himself for you all the time. And it becomes much lighter and easier to make a part of your daily life. Because it's really not you. You don't have the power to remember Baba. It's by his grace that happens. All right.
All right, I see Marion has ran up again. Marion.
I got inspired. I don't tell anybody else what to do. I like to share. And then if it sparks somebody, it sparks. And that is, I know beyond a doubt that I will never lose Baba. Baba will never lose me. And I go to the dark side all the time. I'm back and forth, but I know that. And so one of the things, it just came to me because I put it off for about 4 weeks, is one of the things that I just love, and that is dancing, singing, dancing. And there is one song that, I mean, there are many, many Baba songs. We all know them. But this one gets me moving, even if I feel horrible and crappy, it gets me moving. So that's why I resist it. Because sometimes I don't want to feel happy. I tell Baba, I don't want to feel happy. I want to feel crappy and sad and lonely. And, and that's the way it is. That is, if anybody knows Barry White, he's no longer in his body. Barry White, the Black singer, he has a song, The First, My Last, My Everything. And it's on YouTube, where he's holding a microphone in a nightclub. Barry White, The First, My Last, My Everything. So being with you guys tonight means I'm going to put it on. I don't know if I will until I go and put it on. And I've been resisting it for a month, because no matter how I feel, it makes me move and smile and be just filled with light. So I just want to share that. It's not a to-do for any of you. It's a sharing. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Shea Baba. All right, Dinku. Let's go to Dinku. Good evening, Dinku.
Good evening, Jai Baba, everyone. I just thought I'd share this little bit that say about a month or so ago, I just got bogged down with, one after the other, major health problems in my family, and I just felt lost in why are these things happening. And then I told Baba, I said, Baba, I know it's your will, and I'm handing it over to you. You take care of it. And immediately I felt this weight lifting from me, and I felt at peace. And it's been that way since then. I just pray to Baba every day and thank him for taking care of them. That's it. Jai Baba.
Hey, Baba. Cool.
There's a nice quote that Darwin wrote as Baba was gesturing it, where Baba said, this is, referring to what Dinku just said. Baba said, don't worry. I got this memorized. Don't worry. Let me do the worrying. I enjoy working things out. There's no need for you and I worrying. If you are going to worry, then I won't worry.
Mm.
But the idea of, he likes to work things out. So when we're worrying, we're robbing him of something he enjoys. He likes to work these things out for us. And Dinku, what Dinku said there is almost, a, a case in point. She just said, Baba, you take it, and he's working on it, and then she gets to kind of sit back and smoke a cigar and watch the World Cup.
Wow.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, that's good. There's just one little thing to mention, just connected with what Margie has said. I used to actually sleep at the back of the gateway, the old gateway, on a cot. Basically, I was sleeping every night in an office across from Fred and Ella Winterfeld. They're on Pine Lodge. But this is back in the 70s, and I woke up one morning, and Baba flashed this to me. Just as I was waking up, he said, "You can live a good life, but does the world need another good life? Let me live your life." And so, wow. So I would wake up and I'd say, Baba, you live this day for me. You go in, you embrace people, you talk with people, you clean cabins and all of that. And for years I did, you live this for me. Then I thought, live it for me. Why should you? Well, let's get rid of the middleman here. Bobby, you get up and you live this day. You go in, you share with people, you have lunch with, that you do that. And so it kind of takes, takes the burden, kind of what you've been talking about. It takes the burden off of me having to live my life. That doesn't mean that it's that I'm anything perfect, but it's getting out of letting this guy, letting Baba be this guy living this day. Not like the avatar Baba living the day, but the Jeff Baba living the day, which is, like about 45 carbon copies from the original, you might say. You can barely make it out. You can barely make the Baba out. But anyway, it just, it's a way of going about just framing the day. And it's kind of what you've been talking about, Margie, is like you go in there and you live this day, Baba. And it's interesting because in the course of the day, I see things happening that I know were not in my vocabulary. Things unfolding that are more timeless and spacious than I know if I was doing it myself, it wouldn't be happening that way. So Baba kind of takes me up. I see Baba takes me up on it. So anyway, that's a thing that comes to me.
Jeff, I remember you said a while back ago someone said this, it may have been like, I think Adele Walken or someone, that like we're in Baba's like dollhouse and like Baba's there like seeing us and watching us and like moving the dolls or something like that. I remember you saying that a while back ago.
Yeah, no, that's kind of my
Yeah,
metaphor.
yeah,
I mean, I'll just elaborate on that. It's like if you've all seen these cutaway doll houses where, you can look into each of these little rooms and got furniture and a lamp and little figures in there. And and Baba is like looking at all of us, all of creation, in all these little rooms. And we are in these rooms and we're expecting someone to come in the front door and everything. We have no idea that there's no wall behind us. Baba is looking in personally in each of our little cubicles and and participating in our life completely. I don't know how he does it. You know, I mean, that's why God is so unbelievable. He as God is so unbelievable. How can he be looking in to every room? But, you know, I remember hearing where Baba, just to give you an example, Baba was being driven through the streets of London with this couple in the car. And as they went by this one apartment, there was an apartment on the second floor, and Baba kind of pointed up to that. And they looked up there, and that's where the couple had lived when they were first married, long before they had even heard of Baba. So there are many instances where Baba, and like there was Billy Eaton used to come here. She met Baba back in the 50s. And she went, when she lived in New York, and when she would come home, her dog would come down the hallway and look up at her, tilt its head and look up at her in a very endearing way. You know, and this greeted her, you know, day after day. This was a special moment. And so then I think it was 1956 when she first met Baba, and she had her interview with Baba. And she was a little apprehensive about going in and seeing Baba. I mean, like God is in the other room and you're going in. I mean, it's a monumental thing. It can be to your mind, to your imagination. But anyway, she went in there to see Baba with her private interview. And Baba had his head tilted, just like her dog, looking up exactly like her dog. And she knew that Baba knows my whole life so perfectly. You know, so, and that completely disarmed any anxiety or apprehension she had. But there are numerous instances where Baba showed that he had been looking in your little dollhouse room and knew what was happening to you years before. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
All right. And we have thank you, Jeff. Well
Yeah.
said. And we have Gail. Gail, good evening.
Good evening. As you see, I have Kippy here. And Kippy is a real connection with me to Baba, but it wasn't my first Boston Terrier. I had, when I came to Baba, within 10 days, no, within a month, I got an aged Boston Terrier from a rescue. And my grandparents had Boston Terriers, and I didn't know the connection between Elizabeth Patterson's dog, Kippy, at that time. I didn't believe in reincarnation before, and I did, so I thought I'm getting a dog. And so he lived about 3 years. His name was Buster. And then I got another dog, and he lived a good while. And then now I've got Kippy, and I got Kippy I drove to Sophia, North Carolina, which is nowhere North Carolina. I think there's a railroad crossing. I'd never heard of the town. I've lived in North Carolina all my life, but I went and got a 9-week-old Kippy, and thought long and hard about the name, but she is such a joy, and she connects me to Baba quite a bit. And I remember the pet cemetery from my first visit, a year and a week after I heard Baba's name the second time. I heard Baba's name when I was in college. And it went in my ear, but it didn't go to my throat. It didn't go to my neck, heart. So when I heard Baba's name the second time, it was just instant recognition. And the sizable bank account that I had with Jesus just got moved over. It's like, oh, okay. Okay, I recognize that this is the ancient one, and it was instant conviction. It all made sense. It was just that little click And so that's all I have to say is pets connect us to Baba.
Oh, I mean, Baba was a living example of that. For how much Baba loved animals, if we can't get that through his life, then we're missing a big part. All right, we got Tony up next.
Okay, this is just a few little things. This morning when I was thinking about tonight's chat and what could I share on this? I didn't know. I read your letters, and I wrote this down. Remembering Baba is easy. Forgetting myself is hard. Um, the other thing is, I'm sorry Jeff's gone because his Mara chat was just breathtaking. I've experienced this with Mara, but the idea that Baba is bringing her out on Marabad Hill now, and the idea of I can feel completely open of saying Mara Baba Mara as one, and I've been doing that, and I find where I would take Baba's name and it would not there would be something not quite connecting. When I'm saying Mera, Baba, they're there. I just drove all the way to buy this amplifier and back tonight with that. And so thank you, Jeff. You're not here, but thank you. Also, I wanted to share about getting through life with Baba. Like, the prayer of repentance, the Baba's prayers, I vary them. And I sometimes say them in accents, but I vary them in emphasis also. And lately, with the prayer of repentance, because I say it every night pretty much with my daughter, Elena, and with the prayer of repentance, I've hit on something that to me feels really wonderful. I emphasize, well, of course, mercy and forgiveness, ask you to forgive and most merciful. But I emphasize in that whole list of sins the words all and every. And suddenly I'm not squirming in like, oh God, what am I? Yeah, I do this. Or it's like coming right out and saying, not a few of the occasions of lustful thoughts or wishing harm on all of them, all of them. So acknowledging that there's more than I even admit to, and not making it bigger, but making them smaller because the emphasis is on your unbounded mercy. And I ask you to forgive us for all these sins and our constant failures. And I find that really powerful. The last thing is, years ago when I was on my old iMac, I don't remember the specifics now, but there was some issue, and suddenly on the screen appeared in sort of like reversed letters, like outlined so that you could see behind the letters, a message clearly from Baba for me. I mean, it was really a weird thing. 2 nights ago, three nights during the Baba Arti, that same type of lettering appeared like right in the middle of the screen on top, actually right in Bob Yeager's room. and what it said was Tony's Guest House, 2019, July 8th. But I can't find anything I wrote by that name at that time. But what I got that I felt Baba was saying, Rumi's Guest House is how welcome all the feelings that come. The good feelings, the bad feelings, the dark nights of the soul, the joyous times. Invite them in as guests, see them out when they're done. And it seemed to me that Baba was saying, this screen here, this Hollywood Squares in front of me, is my guest house, and I get to welcome all these aspects of myself. Anyway, that's it. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba. Jai Baba. All right, looks like we got 2 more tonight. We got Rich and Bob, and then somebody just sent me Urge's prayer, which I thought could be really nice. Well, they thought could be really nice to close with. So looking at it, it really fits with our topic. So maybe we'll have Rich and then Bob, and then we'll close that with Urge's prayer. All right, Rich.
It's a little off topic now, but I was going to comment on Gail. I have 2 dogs right now, and there are 5 buried in my backyard. And but one of these is the older, a male, and the story is that I actually believe, I'm pretty certain, he's the reincarnation of one of my other dogs. Not sure between 2 males, but it's male. And I think it was, anyway, a big dog I named him Erich. And, but this one, I named him Adi. And, but there is absolutely no question that Baba, he was just given to me. Some young kids brought him by and said, can't take care of this guy. Do you want him? And they wanted me to take care of him for a couple of weeks before that for weekends, so I did. Well, in this case, they said, no, I have to get rid of him. He loved dogs, but anyway, he was growing up. I had to move on, and it was like, so I think he's about 8 now, but it's just, there's absolutely no question that Baba comes right through him to me. I mean, he'll just look right at me, right? And both of them, the other one's a female, and she really straightens me out. You know, she's teaching me a little more about how to be loving, I think, really, truly. And it's hard for me, I think, because I'm self-centered, I think, you know. But anyway, and the other part is Margie. It didn't occur to me until a little while ago when Jeff was talking that Jeff knows so many magnificent little quippy stories. I wish he could put them all down. I mean, it would be 1,000 pages, you know, but he left just as I was going to make a comment. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. All right, Bob. Bob, I have to tell you, I love your voice. Whenever you talk in the late night chats, and because I always listen to them recorded in the car, I love the tone of your voice.
Oh, thank you. Well, especially with a cold, it gets a little deeper. You know?
Oh, well, now you ruined it. No, I'm kidding.
Tony talking about welcoming everything reminded me about a thing that I try to do. It's not always possible, but somehow remembering that everything is a gift. Everything is a gift. No matter what happens to me throughout this crazy life, throughout my days, whether it seems good or bad to me or painful or joyful, it's a gift. It's a gift from Baba. It's something that I need in that moment, in that day, to learn something that I need to learn. And it's not always an easy thing to accept that, but it relates to a dream I had years ago. And I'll tell about that some other time, but well, all right, I'll tell the short version of it. My wife and I were visiting a friend over on the Western Slope, and I had a dream, the details of which I won't go into, but the dream ended with, I mean, most dreams are sort of dark. They're in darkness, not the moody darkness, but there seems to be, they're almost happening at night. This was the brightest dream I had ever had in my life that I could remember. And the end of this dream took place up on I don't know, it was like up on a high plaza overlooking a city or something. And there were all of these people. And I looked up and raised my hands, and prasad, wrapped candy, was falling out of the sky.
Wow.
I woke up, grabbed my wife's hand and put it on my chest and said, it's all here. It's all right here. Everything is a gift. And described the dream to her. And she went back to sleep, and I got up and repeated Baba's name. And it was just like, I mean, I don't know what seed was planted, but it's the happiest thing that has ever happened to me in my entire life. And that message, everything is a gift, has stuck with me. So there it is. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Oh, thank you.
And Dinku, let's go back to you, Dinku.
Yeah, it's just, you know, going back to what Rich said about the dogs. I've mentioned this before on some of the chats, but my present dog, I'm convinced Baba has brought him to me. It was during the pandemic when I didn't want to have another dog, but there were so many that were abandoned that I just wanted to foster some. And this lady just told me about him, and he's an old dog. And I said, no, I want to foster. And she said, please, you know, he's old, this, that. And before I knew it, the words just came out of my mouth saying, I'll take him. And after the words came out, I don't know where they came from, but it was like, it wasn't me. And I'm convinced it was Baba that, you know, made me take him in. And he's been with me the last 2.5 years. And I'm just convinced that it's Baba. That's it.
Wow.
Th-
That's lovely. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, thank you. I have a quick quote that I would like to share, and then I love your idea with ending on Erich's prayer, Margie. I was just looking through this book. It's one of my new favorite quote books. It's called You and I, and Rick Chapman compiled it all. And I thought this was good, sort of good with our theme for tonight. It goes like this: think of me more and more, and all your worries will disappear into the nothing they really are. My will works out to awaken you to this. Meher Baba.
Jai Baba. All right. So this is Erich's prayer. Beloved Baba, I remain beholden to you for everything that you have done for me, in spite of what I am and how I am. You have always overlooked my weaknesses and forgiven me my trespasses. You have never once chastised me. On the contrary, you have always showered your love upon me and your graces upon me. I have no words to express my gratitude, but to utter, "O Baba, O Baba, O Baba." I am grateful to you for everything. I remain grateful to you ever and ever. O Baba, I beseech you, implore you, and beg of you, never, never, ever let me down. Baba, never, ever let me down. Never, ever reject me, but accept me as I am and how I am. O Baba, guard me and guide me and help me. Hold my hand and lead me on till the very end. Fill me with your love from top to bottom, from side to side, inside and outside, so that your love pervades and permeates me, engulfs and envelops me, and all that is your love and not I. I remain resigned to your will, and let thy will be done always. Jai Meher Baba. Maybe we'll just close out with a couple more moments of silence and then an avatar. Meher Baba Ki Jai. Avatar Meher
Meher
Baba
Baba Ki
Ki
Jai.
Jai. Thank you so much.
Avatar,
Meher Baba
Baba,
Jai.
EJ.
Avatar.
Meher Baba Ki Jai.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mark.
We
Thank you.
will